Before I get into why I believe Mortal Kombat 1 ultimately failed as a game, I want to point out that I do really like the story, the lore, and even the gameplay at times for most of the Mortal Kombat games. I've grown up basically playing almost every single one of them. I've played a lot of Armageddon, I played a lot of the old ones especially, I've even played their weird racing mode, and I have very fond memories of playing Mortal Kombat 9 for the first time. But Mortal Kombat 1 was a very rushed, and I would say not as complete as it should have been in comparison to saying unfinished. To start the launch of Mortal Kombat 1, we had access to the main story, the offline, online, towers, and invasions. I will be comparing the past 3 games we have gotten before Mortal Kombat 1, but before I do so, note that Mortal Kombat 1 was very, very hyped up. MK1 was posting an insane amount on TikTok. It was extremely popular on there. We had trailers for individual characters that were getting millions of views, and new character trailers still do, but player counts for this game show a lack of interest. Now yes, this is only Steam charts, and I have no way of exactly proving the numbers for Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo Switch, but note that this game did not launch with crossplay. In comparison to other fighting games that did, this isn't a good start for MK1. MK1 introduced a new system of cameo fighters that was not like the tag team in MK9, but instead a support fighter that would stay on the sidelines and assist whenever you needed. There are still metas for these characters and which ones are best to use, and to my knowledge, they've only been given like cooldown nerfs. Besides cameo fighters, characters like Sub-Zero were extremely good in the beta, and instead of toning him down, they completely gutted him, and the skill expression versus reward for damage was next to nothing compared to someone like Raiden, who had a moveset that grants a lot of damage for barely any inputs. On the topic of cameo fighters, there were a lot of people who wanted a mode that allowed you to not have one. I think the game was built in such a poor way that the game couldn't function without this important building block. There was either leaks or rumors that there would be a tag team mode, but we have yet to see it. Another issue as well was the pacing for this game, and it being very slow at times. When you compare it to something like MKX, where I've seen most fans of the Mortal Kombat franchise say how much they love this game for that specific reason, MK1 just feels sluggish. I've heard a lot of people who went from playing MK1 to say Tekken or Street Fighter, only to come back and after like an update and say that the game doesn't really feel that good to play. Besides gameplay, the story at first was very interesting. When I had played for the first time, I chose not to skip any of the cinematics, and I just watched as I went. The story went from explaining the new version of the universe, leading us to believe that Liu Kang had won the battle between him and Shang Tsung. We later learned that Liu Kang didn't want to be the Keeper of Time, and instead allowed Geras to oversee the Hourglass. Liu Kang became pretty much the new Raiden in a way. There was a Tarkatan disease, and we learned that a lot of characters were changed in this new universe. What else am I missing? Oh yeah, Kenshi wasn't blind anymore. Oh wait, never mind, he is blind again. There was a bunch of things that happened for MK1's story that was a nice change, but this was later ruined at the ending for this game. Now don't get me wrong, this was the best way to settle who had won for the ending of the MK11 Aftermath DLC. As the player, we were able to choose between who we wanted to win, and we later found out that technically both of them had won, and were in separate universes. Then they called back to Armageddon by gathering every single version of every character in every universe to help fight this version of Shang Tsung. I found it fun as a concept, but in terms of the overall story, the ending was just a nice cliffhanger, but allowed for invasions to make some remote sense. Basically, multiverse sort of stories usually are just an scapegoat. Invasions is their seasonal mode that addresses certain outliers in other universes. Only problem for me is all of these endings are just voiceovers and lack depth. Because when it comes down to it, why should we care for these other versions of characters that don't exist in our universe? I understand that sometimes they, have some sort of crossover, but it doesn't really matter. Invasions gameplay-wise is very uninteresting and not only frustrating, but just plain boring. It's the same thing over and over and without much explanation or plot. It's just a time waster, and at the end, you were given a costume, but to be honest, it just sucks. We got invasions instead of the usual crypt, which the crypt was pretty cool. We also had the shrine, which is just the dumbed down version of the crypt, but to be honest, I would have just rathered a fun new mode. There's towers as well, but that's just the endings for characters, and let's be honest, no one plays that like over and over and over. That it's boring. Now for me, fighting games aren't really something that I tend to play online a lot of the time. For me, I really enjoy playing offline. I play the story, for this game in specific, invasions, but other than that, I don't really play online. I tried playing online. There is a trophy for PlayStation to play online. I still have yet to complete it because I'm just lazy, and I had already uninstalled the game by that point. This is honestly really frustrating, but that doesn't mean it's bad or anything. It's a very competitive thing. So if for someone like you, you know, you don't find it that competitive and you just enjoy it to enjoy it, that's cool. There's like the ranked playlist, and that still is just as competitive. You just get people who are Smurfs, stuff like that. And I think that's a major problem for playing online. Not exactly just a problem, but it sort of strays away a lot of those casual players because it's not fun to lose, and that's most of fighting games. And if you can accept losing and accept being able to work around those issues, being able to get better with a character, you have probably more fun. But not me. I don't. I already know that I don't. You cannot make me have more fun. That's not gonna fucking happen. Overall, I think the problem for this game is the lack of content and lack of communication. Ed Boon is the creative director for NetherRealm Studios, and if you didn't know, they make the Mortal Kombat games. And for quite a while, you would notice that Ed Boon only really reposts or posts about new characters coming to the game on Twitter. There's just barely any transparency on their plans as a studio for what they want to do with this game. So this lets us, as the players, assume the worst. Drip-feeding content. MK1 has a serious problem with this because MK1 released in September of 2023, and we have yet to even get all of the first Combat Pack characters. They have been teased since launch of the game, and most of the trailers for this game had them. Omni-Man and Peacemaker are pretty fun characters, but Quan Chi and Ermac are literally in the story, and they are just sold later. It's lazy. When at the character selection screen, we are shown that there are characters just locked and inaccessible. I would say that this is more or less just a business tactic, but the fact that a lot of these things are somewhat finished allows me to believe that they probably have a lot of these characters done, and they're just not, like, letting us play them. On top of this, the cameo fighters that they have introduced are either really good or just another cameo fighter. We've only gotten Tremor and Chameleon so far, and something I've also seen is that in the leaks, we were supposed to get Johnny Cage as a cameo fighter, but instead, we were given an alternate version of him as a woman. I don't have a problem with him being a woman, but why don't we just have an alternate skin like Jean-Claude Van Damme? Releasing these characters every month is hurting the game, because for any other game that could come out right now with this sort of plan, we would have seen a character at the start and in the middle of every month since launch. I know that in the next 2 years, this game will have a bunch of fighters and be absolutely insane, but this was very rushed, and it should have just been kept in the oven, just let it cook a little bit longer instead of giving us this half-baked game. I think the art style and looks of everything is really good for this game, like graphic wise it's amazing. To be honest, it's just not that enjoyable when there's not a lot of stuff to do. I would say this game is pretty much dead nonetheless, which is sad because I spent a good amount of money on it. Hopefully NetherRealm is taking this long because they're just working on Injustice 3, which I will be honest, I'm pretty worried about that too. If the ending to MK1 is any sign, Injustice 3 might have terrible writing, or maybe Injustice 3 won't even be connected to the original past 2. I don't know, I just want to play as the Flash again, with better graphics. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I honestly would love to get your guys' opinions on it, because there's maybe some of you who really like how the game is going, and there's some of you who do agree that the game isn't really as fun as it should be. But yeah, that's just gonna do it for this video. Hope you guys have a great day, great night, great week, great month, great whole rest of the year. Really doesn't matter when it is. I hope that's great for you guys though. See ya.